Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, December the 3rd. We got a 9-game Friday night slate. As always, guys, we're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each game on the slate and kind of break down each team, give my early thoughts, what I do like, look at this slate, first look on Thursday night. Before we do get started with the breakdown, as always, please do hit the like button down below. I always do appreciate all the likes. And if you're new to the channel here, make sure you do click that subscribe button as well. Also, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a player prop based DFS site. I'm sure most of you have heard about PrizePicks, but if you're new here and you have not signed up for PrizePicks yet, get over to PrizePicks, sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. You can take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer. Right now, at the time I'm recording this video, they don't have any projections posted yet for NBA on Friday, but obviously they'll get those posted later tonight, early Friday morning. They'll have like point projections, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made, player props pretty much, and then they also do fantasy point projections over on PrizePicks as well. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10 extra money over there. You can mix and match sports. They have a lot of sports available. NFL, college basketball, college football, PGA. They got every sport imaginable on PrizePicks. So if you haven't signed up, go over there, sign up, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. And as always, guys, I do give out some of my favorite picks on PrizePicks each day for Patreon members. If you want to check out the Patreon, link down below in the description, you can do that. I get my PrizePicks plays out over there each day. Also have a lot more updated DFS content that I provide on Patreon. My full updated core plays, my positional plays where I list off my favorite plays at each position, my rankings, my top 20 plays of the day, ranked in order of interest. That's all available on Patreon. Plus, we have our Discord chat. You can ask me questions anytime during the day in Discord. I'm always in there answering your guys' questions, talking through, the slate and everything. So if you're interested in some of my, additional content, you can check that out on Patreon. Link down below in the description. But let's take a look at Friday night's 9-game slate. We're going to start off with the Cavs and Wizards game. So looking at Cleveland today, a couple guys that I think are pretty appealing here. Now, the pricing on Cleveland, I think, is probably where it should be. There's no standout value or, standout plays when you look at price tag, but there are guys that have upside that I would definitely be considering in tournaments, like Jared Allen at 8,100. I do like this matchup for him against the Wizards. We've seen centers do really well against Washington this season. We saw Karl-Anthony Towns do really well against them a couple days ago. Jared Allen, has already faced the Wizards once this season, had a double-double, 39 DK points, played 38 minutes. He's continuing to play massive minutes on a nightly basis. Last game only got 31 minutes, but that was a blowout against Miami. In competitive games lately, he's been playing 35, 36, 37 minutes. I think that's what we'll get from Jared Allen today. He's a point-per-minute player. 8,100, the price tag is, correct. I don't think Allen really stands out as a top play at his price tag, but definitely has the upside in tournaments, especially in a good matchup against Washington. So he's in play for me. I think Darius Garland's in play too. Kind of similar, just going to play a ton of minutes. I think he's playable at 7,200. Evan Mobley, I do like quite a bit at 6,700. He's also, kind of similar to Jared Allen in where, as long as the game's close, I think Evan Mobley plays like 35, 36 minutes. He's been a really productive player this season. I like the matchup for him against Washington. I think, this is another really good spot for Mobley. He has faced Washington already this year as well. I think this was a game he might have, I can't remember if he either got hurt or he got into some early foul trouble. He only played 25 minutes last time they played the Wizards, but he was productive in those 25 minutes, had 32 DK points. I like Mobley at 6,700. Him, Allen, and Garland, I think, are all playable from this Cleveland team. The rest of the Cavs I'm not really on. Kevin Love had a massive game last game against Miami, but it's just not something I'm going to chase. He put up 2 fantasy points per minute. He only played 21 minutes, put up 42 DK points. I don't care that he was that productive. So far this year, Kevin Love is clearly, not a guy that's going to play a ton of minutes. They're just going to bring him off the bench, play him like 20 minutes a night. If Kevin Love scores 40 DraftKings points in 20 minutes, then so be it. But I'm not going to play him at 5,100. I'm not going to chase that last game. I think the top 3 guys are, my kind of focal points from Cleveland. Now on the Wizards, it seems like this is the case every slate, but the Wizards are just not a team I'm really that interested in. When they're fully healthy and when everyone's priced where they are, God, they're just like, it's tough to really watch these guys or have much confidence in these guys. Could Bradley Beal have a good game here? He could, but at 9,200, in a tougher spot against a good Cavs team that's been playing good defense this year, I don't really like Bradley Beal that much. Same with Kuzma. Dinwiddie's been terrible lately. I feel like Dinwiddie 5,900 might be my favorite play from Washington, but I really don't like any of these Wizards that much. It's a 9-game slate. We have a lot of other games we can target. I don't think I'm going to be too heavy on Washington today. Daniel Gafford's been playing a lot better lately. He's 5K. If he continues to play like 27 minutes a night, I think he'd be someone I'd have interest in. But, the 27 minutes he's been getting, there's no guarantee that he plays 27 minutes today. He could play 22. He could play 20. He could get into early foul trouble. You never know when it comes to the center minutes between Gafford and Harrell. So far this season, it's been like a 24-24 split. Most nights, it's usually Harrell that plays more. Lately, Gafford's kind of been playing more than Harrell. If that continues, then yeah, at 5K, Gafford be a pretty solid play, but I'm not confident that he continues to play as many minutes as Harrell, or plays more than Harrell. So the center situation in Washington's one lately I've been avoiding. Overall, I don't think the Wizards are a team I'm too high on today, given the pricing. So moving on to the next game, talk about Miami and Indiana. Miami, a team that, you kind of have to look at for today's slate because they're going to be pretty shorthanded, going to be without Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. So Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, I know they both really struggled last game without Bam and without Jimmy. They got blown out by Cleveland. I don't care. I'm going to go right back to these Miami guys. I think they're great plays. Without Bam and without Jimmy, you're just going to see so much opportunity, so much usage available for Kyle Lowry and Tyler Hero to soak up. Those are going to be the guys taking all the shots. Lowry's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He should be able to get a lot of assists. I like him a lot at 7,800. I like Tyler Hero as well at 7,500. I think between the two, I give a slight edge to Hero, mainly just because Hero's kind of been more aggressive offensively lately. Like last game, he did take 23 shots. We know Hero's a guy that, when he gets hot, man, he can, really put up big games. He's a really, really efficient shooter. At 7,500, I think him and Lowry project very closely. I give a slight edge to Hero. I think I do prefer him straight up over Lowry, but you could definitely play both these guys. If this game winds up staying close and you do get full minutes from both Lowry and Hero, they have 45, 50-point upside. It wouldn't be surprising if both these guys put up, over 45 DK points. So I think you can for sure play both. I give a slight edge to Hero between the two, but really like Lowry and Hero without Bam and without Jimmy. Then you got Dwayne Dedmon at 4,800. Saw a big price bump up, but it kind of makes sense because last game without Bam, he started, played 31 minutes, was really productive, had 39 DK points. Against this Indiana team that does play really big, they're going to have one of Sabonis or Miles Turner on the floor at all times. I think once again, Dwayne Dedmon's going to play like as many minutes as he can handle. That was a blowout last game, and he still played 31 minutes even in a blowout. He might play 32, 34 minutes today if the game stays close. Now, Dwayne Dedmon is someone that does struggle a lot with fouls. He picks up fouls quick. He's in foul trouble a lot. But if he can stay out of foul trouble, I think he plays as many minutes as he can handle. Dwayne Dedmon's a pretty productive player when he's on the floor. He's a fantasy point per minute player. At 4,800, I still think he's a pretty solid value on the slate. I like both these guys on Draftkings. Now on Yahoo, they actually did not include this game on their main slate. The two 7 o'clock Eastern games are not on the Yahoo main slate, so that's why we're not talking about these guys over on Yahoo. But for Draftkings, Hero, Dedmon, Lowry, all really good plays. Once again, Duncan Robinson, I think in tournaments is viable. Now, he has been so bad lately. I don't know what has happened to Duncan Robinson, but the last two games, he had just shot the ball god-awful. 1 for 9 against Denver a couple days ago, and then when they played Cleveland last game, he shot 0 for 7. He's just been shooting the ball terribly. I don't know if he's got an injury right now, what's going on with him. But I think Duncan Robinson at some point is going to start making shots. We've seen in the past, Duncan Robinson is a pretty good shooter, and when he does get hot, he has upside. Now, he's a very scoring-dependent player. He doesn't really get many rebounds. He doesn't get many assists. In order for him to have a good game, he's going to have to shoot the ball really well. But there should be plenty of opportunity for him to get shots up, without Bam and without Jimmy. It's just a matter of if he can actually make his shots, which lately he hasn't been doing. That could turn around at any point, though. He's a riskier play, but I think Duncan Robinson's still viable at 4,500. The rest of the Miami guys, I think, are just kind of dart throws. Last game, Gabe Vincent off the bench played 28 minutes. For 3,900, he probably gets 25, 26 minutes here. Probably not as many as he played last game just because, I think he might have benefited from the blowout. Maybe he only gets low 20s, but playable. PJ Tucker, if it's a close game, probably plays 30 minutes. PJ Tucker is not a guy that I really ever roster. We'll have to wait and see what other value we get. If we don't get any value today, then maybe PJ Tucker could be a viable cheap play, but I feel like, there's probably going to be some better value open up. And then same could be said for a guy like Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin came off the bench last game. They put Tyler Hero, back in the starting lineup over Caleb Martin. He still did play pretty well, though, off the bench. Played 28 minutes, 21 DK points. Again, fine value, but none of these Miami cheap guys I'm really that thrilled about. I think from Miami, we really want to be focusing on the main guys, Lowry, Hero, Dedmon, and then, maybe Duncan Robinson if you want to go there in tournaments. But that's it for Miami. Now, on the Indiana side, The Pacers are a team I'm really not that interested in today. They've got Miles Turner back, so they're pretty much fully healthy. I will say that Justin Holiday and TJ McConnell are both out, so we'll kind of talk about who I think benefits there. But this is a really tough spot against Miami. Without Bam and without Jimmy, I think their defense is going to be worse than normal. But they're still a pretty solid team. They play really slow. Not a good spot for Sabonis, I would say. Now that Bam's not out there, maybe it's a little bit better, but 9,600, you're really paying a heavy price tag for Sabonis. He obviously had that massive game against Minnesota when Miles Turner was out, but Miles Turner returned last game. Sabonis kind of went down, back down to earth, 41 DK points. I don't think I can pay 9,600 for Sabonis today. Same could be said for Brogdon at 8,500. Look, Brogdon's got upside, but on this slate against Miami, tougher matchup, slow, should be a pretty slow-paced game. I don't think I'm going to be really loading up on any Pacers. Karis LeVert, he continues to project well, like every day with the projections that I use. Like LeVert is always projecting out as a really good play, and he's just been so fucking bad lately. It's insane. Like Karis LeVert, this dude has just completely fallen off a cliff. He used to be so good, and I don't know what's going on with him right now. Like I don't know if he's injured right now, if he's just not like if he's just playing bad, but he's been so bad lately. I feel like at some point he's going to turn around. Like he's a pretty good player. He's had a history of being a good player, especially when he was on Brooklyn. But it's hard to really trust Karis LeVert right now until we actually see him play well. More of a GPP play in my opinion, even at 5,700. Even though he might project well at that salary, I doubt I go to him. I think Chris Duarte could probably be the value play you go to though. I think he honestly is my favorite play from Indiana. He's only 4,400. He played 35 minutes last game. He moved into the starting lineup in place of Justin Holiday. Justin Holiday is out again, so I'm expecting Duarte to start. And I think without TJ McConnell as well, like we maybe see Duarte play 35, 36 minutes once again. Now he's also, a pretty score-independent player. He's a guy that takes, mainly just, he's going to shoot when he's out there. He's not really going to get many rebounds or get many assists. But he's been a pretty efficient shooter this season. If he's knocking down his shots, he does offer some upside at 4,400. I had an over prop on his points on Prize Picks last slate, over 12.5 points. He came up just 2 points shy, which was super tilting of that. He had a pretty bad shooting game, came up just 2 points shy of his points prop last game. I'm going to be interested to see what his points prop is for today because I think Duarte is going to be out there a ton. I think he's going to play 36, 37 minutes if the game's close. Without Holiday, without McConnell, he's going to be out there, playing a ton of minutes. So I definitely like Chris Duarte for value. I think he's in play for sure at 4,400. That's it, though, for me from Indiana. So we can move on to the next game, Philly and Atlanta. So this should be a pretty good game to watch, but for DFS, this is one of those games for DFS, I don't really love. The pricing on Philly right now is it's tough to really consider any Sixers as like top plays. Obviously, Joel Embiid is someone you can play in tournaments, but at 10,500, he's not really going to project that well at his salary. That doesn't mean he can't have a good game. He's just not going to be a stud that I prioritize today. I don't really like the matchup against Atlanta either. Atlanta's pretty good defensively against big men. Capella, Collins, they're going to be out there clogging the paint, trying to make life, as difficult as possible for Embiid. If I had to play any Sixer today, it would be him. But like Tobias Harris, Maxey, Seth Curry, I'm just not going to play these guys at their price points. There's really nothing that I love from the Sixers today. Embiid's my favorite play for sure, but even him, he's just like a GPP option. On the Atlanta side, it's kind of similar on Atlanta. I will say though, that Kevin Huerter is going to be someone we talk about for value. I think I do have interest in him as a cheaper option. But like Trae Young at 10,200, again, Trae Young at this price point, not really going to project that well. I think Trae Young will be fairly low owned. We saw him have some really big games against Philly last year, especially like in the playoffs. I remember him having a huge game against the Sixers in the playoffs. Look, he's got upside. He's a really talented player, but we still know that Trae Young has kind of a low floor, especially for a player priced at 10,200. Like, we've seen him disappoint plenty of times this year. I mean, 35, 38 DK points. He's got a 60, 70-point ceiling, but there's also going to be nights when you roster Trae Young and he gives you 40 DK points and he's just, he's a big letdown. Against the Sixers, this doesn't feel like a spot where Trae Young, is likely to put up a ceiling game, but you never know. He's playable on this slate, but again, not like a top stud for me. Capella, in this matchup against Embiid, I'm not going to go there. He's pretty expensive too. John Collins, I don't love at 7K. Not really someone I'm going to be prioritizing. I think Kevin Huerter, though, is a value play I do have interest in. 5,100 on DraftKings. That price tag's starting to come up a little bit, but I still think he's a pretty solid value. And on Yahoo, he's really cheap on Yahoo. I like him a lot over there, only $13 at small forward. So we saw Kevin Huerter, he's going to continue to start. He started once again last game, and he's been playing big minutes lately. 38 minutes against the Knicks, 34 minutes last game against the Pacers. Without Cam Reddish and without Bogdan, we did see him play a ton of minutes last game. Now Cam Reddish could return today. He is questionable. He was questionable last game, did not play. But without Bogdan and without DeAndre Hunter, the minutes are going to be there for Kevin Huerter on a nightly basis. And if Cam Reddish gets ruled out as well, you just feel even better about the minutes for Huerter. He probably plays 35, 36 minutes if Reddish is out. Even if Reddish plays, he probably still gets like 30, 32 minutes. 5,100, feels priced about right. But right now, looking at this slate the night before, there is really not a ton of standout value today. So I think a guy like Kevin Huerter at 5,100, if we expect him to play 32, 34 minutes, he's going to look like a pretty decent value. Again, we'll have to wait and see what other value opens up as the day goes on. But for now, I do like Huerter a decent amount. The rest of the Hawks, though, I'm not that interested in. I think if Cam Reddish winds up playing, he could be a viable cheap play. He's only 3,400. I'd assume he plays around 25 to 28 minutes off the bench. Without Bogdan, without Hunter, there's going to be more minutes available for him. But we'll have to wait and see with his status. He's questionable right now. I think we can go ahead and move on to the next game, I would say. So moving on to Minnesota and Brooklyn. Looking at Minnesota today, they're one of the bigger teams to keep an eye on when it comes to injuries. Big injury here with Karl-Anthony Towns being questionable. I don't think Cat has missed a game yet this season, if I remember correctly. So this is obviously really important. In the past, whenever Cat has been out, usually Naz Reid is the guy that steps in and will start in place of Cat. I will say that if Cat is out today, Naz Reid would probably be the best value play on DraftKings. He's 3,300. You can roster him at power forward and center. Naz Reid's a really productive player when he gets minutes, especially when he's playing center, not playing alongside Towns. It's a really good matchup against Brooklyn. Brooklyn's a team you can beat down low. They've really never been great defensively against opposing centers. So I would love Naz Reid for value if Towns is out. I think if Towns is out, you would also see a pretty big usage bump for both D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is probable, so he's expected to play. I would definitely like Russell and Edwards a lot if Towns sits. If Towns plays, though, I don't see too much I love from Minnesota outside of Towns himself. We talked about how Brooklyn's a team you can beat with opposing big men. I know centers this year have been able to have pretty big games against Brooklyn. I think Towns at 9,700 goes pretty overlooked on this slate. His price is pretty high right now. It's tough to really consider Towns a top play when he's 9,700. But the matchup's really good. It was a really good matchup for him last slate against Washington. We talked about him as being a good tournament play. And he had a really good game, 53 DK points, played 33 minutes. I would not be surprised to see another 55, 60-point game from Towns here. So if he winds up playing, I definitely like him against this Brooklyn team. And if he's out, then we can start to load up on Minnesota. Russell, Edwards, Naz Reid would all be really good value plays. I would like all those guys a lot. Or at least Naz Reid would be a good value. Russell and Edwards would be good pay-up options. But I think that's it for Minnesota. Now, moving on to the Brooklyn side. Brooklyn's one of these teams that's just really tough to... It's tough to prioritize these Brooklyn bigs or, these big two guys, KD and Harden, on a nightly basis just because where they're priced at. They're going to eat into each other's usage. It's really hard to predict when you get big games from these guys. Lately, Harden's kind of been the guy that's been having the better games. Last game against the Knicks, he played really well. 40 minutes, had 65 DraftKings points. He nearly had a triple-double. Look, we know Harden and KD both have a lot of upside. We know they're both going to play a ton of minutes. But, it's tough to pay over $11K for these guys. They're not really going to project well at their salaries. That doesn't mean they can't have good games. It's just, it's going to be tough to gauge when they do have good games. On this slate, you've got Luka, who I would probably play over the Brooklyn guys. You got Paul George for cheaper against the Lakers. I'd probably take Paul George over them too. So I think KD and Harden on this slate are probably just tournament plays. The rest of Brooklyn, I'm not that interested in. I think LaMarcus Aldridge, I like the matchup for him against Cat, assuming Cat plays. Cat's really never been a great defender. Aldridge has been playing pretty big minutes, since they changed up the starting lineup and moved him into the starting lineup. He's been getting around 30 minutes a night. At 6K, he feels priced probably where he should be, but LaMarcus Aldridge this year with Brooklyn has been a relatively productive player. If he plays 30, 32 minutes here, it wouldn't be surprising to see him put up 35, 36 DK points. So he's playable at 6K. But I think that's it for Brooklyn, I think. Not a team I love, really, but definitely some playable guys in tournaments, I'd say. Next game, though, Orlando and Houston. So, battle of two pretty shitty teams here. Starting off on the Orlando side, though, you got Cole Anthony, 8,200. Cole Anthony, one of these guys, it's tough to, it's tough to prioritize him at 8,200. I think in tournaments, he's got upside, especially against a pretty bad Rockets team and against a Rockets team that's playing at the fastest pace in the league so far this season. It is a really good matchup for Cole Anthony. At 8,200, though, he feels priced probably where he should be. I still think he would be in my tournament player pool, though, for sure. I think Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba both give you some upside in a good matchup. I definitely have a little interest in them in tournaments. And that's probably it from Orlando. Like Franz Wagner, he's almost 6K now. I doubt I really go to Franz Wagner at 5,800. Gary Harris, even though he's going to start and probably play like 30, 35 minutes, like Gary Harris just doesn't offer any upside. He is really unlikely to be a player that like you have to have at the end of the night. You know, most nights Gary Harris, when he's starting, he's going to play 35 minutes and score 24 DK points, which is fine at 4K, but that's not really going to like win you a tournament. So the value from Orlando, I'm just not really going to go to. I think if I'm playing any Magic today, it's going to be probably Cole Anthony, Wendell Carter, and Mo Bamba, and probably not touching anyone else. Now, on the Houston side, we're going to have to pay attention to the injury report for Houston. Christian Wood got hurt in their last game, but he is probable for today, so he's expected to play. But Kevin Porter Jr., he also got hurt in their last game, and he did not return. He's questionable for today. So Kevin Porter Jr. being questionable is pretty big because they're already without Jalen Green. There would be a lot of minutes available at the guard spot if KPJ were to sit as well. You would see a lot of minutes available for guys like Eric Gordon. Maybe I don't know who they would start in place of KPJ. They could just slide Eric Gordon down to point guard and just let him play point guard, or we could see like Armani Brooks start. They could maybe start DJ Augustine. We're going to have to pay attention to this KPJ news. If KPJ plays, he's a really good play at 7,700 just because we've seen the upside KPJ has, when he's healthy. He's been scoring a ton lately. He's been getting a lot of assists. He's been getting rebounds. He has shown triple-double upside. And against Orlando, I mean, this is a really good spot. Like, Orlando's not a good defensive team at all. Both these teams are really bad, so I think this game is likely to stay close. I'm not sure what the spread is in this game. I don't know if we have a line yet, but I'd assume this game's probably going to be projected to stay close. I'd assume the spread's probably like 4 or 5 points. So if we're going to get full minutes from KPJ, I mean, it's 7,700. Without Jalen Green, we've seen the upside from KPJ. I think he's definitely in play. Christian Wood, I love in this matchup against the Magic. The Magic are just a really bad defensive team, especially against opposing big men. Christian Wood, lately, he's shown a lot of upside as well. Now, the last game against OKC, you can't look too much into that. He did get off to a really slow start, but I think he was injured. Even when he was on the court, he didn't look healthy. Like, he was hobbling around. So he was terrible last game after he got injured. Played 9 minutes, had just one block in those 9 minutes. I like going right back to Christian Wood, though. I think with him busting last game, that probably keeps his ownership a little bit down today, probably keeps it a little bit in check. Really like him on Yahoo, though. If you look at his Yahoo price, I think he really stands out over there. He's just $35. For sure, one of my favorite centers on Yahoo today. Love the matchup against Orlando. We've seen the upside Christian Wood has. If he plays his normal minutes here in what should be a competitive game, he could go for 50, 60 Draftkings points against this Magic defense. So really like Christian Wood, really like KPJ if he plays. If KPJ is out, then I think we can start to look to guys like Jayshawn Tate. Now, at 6K, I would probably only be playing Jayshawn Tate at this price tag if KPJ's out. If KPJ plays, I doubt I'd be paying 6K for Jayshawn Tate. But Eric Gordon at 4,900 would be a really solid value play if KPJ's out. And then we'd also get some value from a guy like Armani Brooks. If he were to start, he'd be a solid value. If DJ Augustine were to start, he's minimum salary, he'd be a good value as well. But we're going to have to pay attention to that news with Kevin Porter. Really big, definitely could open up some value, if he does wind up getting ruled out. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about the Pelicans and the Mavs. So we just saw these teams play a couple days ago. It was a huge blowout. Dallas, I think, won by like over 20 points. J-Val, though, it was a great spot for him last slate against Dallas. Dallas so far this year has been getting killed by big men. Guys like J-Val can just feast against this Mavs team. And I know J-Val did really bad last game, but I'm totally fine going right back to him in tournaments. I think J-Val, especially with him busting last game, is likely to be low owned on this slate. So I definitely like J-Val, and I really like Brandon Ingram at 7,900. I think Brandon Ingram is just a little bit too cheap today. Brandon Ingram so far this year has not shown a ton of upside. You look at his game log, like out of his last 10 games, his best game is 43 DK points. But last game he played really well in limited minutes. I don't think he played at all in the fourth quarter because it was such a blowout. He still played 31 minutes, though. He's been playing a ton of minutes lately, though. In competitive games, you've been getting 36, 38 minutes from Brandon Ingram. We know he's a point-per-minute player. He's a high-usage player. He's a guy that's going to take a lot of shots. He'll grab some rebounds. He'll get some assists as well. I like him at 7,900 as just kind of like a mid-range play. Again, we're going to have to wait and see what other value opens up as the day goes on. But if we don't get any value, I mean, it's going to be really hard to kind of pay up for a lot of studs today. So going to some of these mid-range options like Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, Brandon Ingram, these guys I think is going to be the way to go. And Brandon Ingram at 7,900 on DK, I do like quite a bit. And on Yahoo, really cheap over there, $29. He's been cheap on Yahoo for a while. I think he still looks pretty good over on Yahoo at $29. Brandon Ingram and J-Val are for sure my two favorite plays from the Pelicans. Josh Hart's questionable again. Josh Hart was out last game. They started Garrett Temple in place of Josh Hart. He only played 22 minutes though. Garrett Temple is normally a guy that I never play. I probably wouldn't even be on him today, even if Josh Hart's out again. Herbert Jones probably plays big minutes. They're going to want him out there guarding Luka. He's not a guy that really offers a ton of upside, but he's going to play a lot of minutes, and he's 3,700, so he's playable for value. But again, I don't know really what his upside is. It's probably it from New Orleans. I think really just J-Val and Ingram are the two guys that stand out most from the Pelicans today. Now on the Mavs, another team we're going to have to pay attention to when it comes to injuries. We got Porzingis questionable. This is pretty big because if Porzingis does get ruled out, we definitely would get some value from the Mavs. I'm assuming either Maxi Kleber or it's probably Maxi Kleber. I'd assume Maxi Kleber would start in place of Porzingis. Maxi Kleber is 4,100, so Maxi Kleber's a guy that really has never been a great point per minute player, but he would probably play 30, 35 minutes if Porzingis were to be out. For 4,100, he would definitely be in play for value on this slate. And then you probably would see more minutes for some of the bigs. So, Boban got into the rotation last game, played a little bit in this matchup against the Pelicans. Dwight Powell, he started last game with Willie Cauley-Stein out. Only played 11 minutes, but I think if Porzingis were to be out, there would definitely be more minutes available for Dwight Powell. You never know what the center rotation is going to look like. Whenever Porzingis is out, sometimes they'll just kind of split up the center minutes. But I'd assume Dwight Powell probably plays 26, 28 minutes, and you probably see a couple minutes for Boban. Maybe Moses Brown plays a little bit, but Dwight Powell at 3K minimum salary would for sure be in play for value if we get word that that Porzingis is out, because in a matchup against the Pelicans, a team that plays big, they're going to have one of J-Val or Hernan Gomez on the floor at all times. You're going to probably need a big center out there, so we probably would get pretty good minutes for Dwight Powell. If Porzingis winds up playing though, then I don't like too much from Dallas. I think Luka at 11,800, he's really expensive. But I do like this matchup for Luka against the Pelicans. He did do really well, even in a blowout last game. He had 54 DK points, only played 27 minutes. I don't think he played at all in the fourth quarter. He was on pace for a massive game. Obviously the blowout really killed him. Again, I like the matchup. The Pelicans have not been a great defensive team this year. Even though Herbert Jones is a really good defender, he's not going to stop Luka one-on-one. Luka on this slate, I think, does stand out as a pretty good pay-up option just because we don't have, we don't have Jokic, we don't have Giannis. There's not a ton of great pay-up options today, so I think Luka is one of my favorites for sure. Just, the floor that he gives you and the ceiling he offers on a nightly basis does make him a good pay-up option. But I think that's it for Dallas. We can move on to the next game. Talk about the Celtics and the Jazz. So, man, this is another one that for DFS doesn't look great. There's not a ton that I really like here, but we definitely are going to need to talk about some of these guys because with Jaylen Brown out for Boston today, that is going to open up more usage, more opportunity for guys like Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder. It's going to open up some more minutes as well. Jason Tatum at 10,100, tougher matchup against the Jazz. Obviously not the most ideal spot, having to go on the road to face Utah. But Jason Tatum's just going to play a ton. He's going to play 36 to 40 minutes if the game's close. He's been a super productive player this year. He's been producing at a high rate. With Jaylen Brown out, you expect him to continue to produce at a high rate, get even more usage. Tatum at 10-1, I still do like, even in a tougher matchup. Al Horford against the Jazz, I don't love the spot for him against Gobert. Probably wouldn't be on Horford, but I think Smart and Schroeder are both in play. And Dennis Schroeder is the guy that I do like quite a bit. 6K for Dennis Schroeder. I think he looks like a pretty appealing mid-range option. And on Yahoo, another guy that I think is a little bit too cheap there. $21 on Yahoo. So with Jaylen Brown out, I'm expecting Dennis Schroeder to move back in the starting lineup. He was always he started all the games when Jaylen Brown was out. And he played pretty well in those games. We saw him play in big minutes too. A lot of these games against the Hawks, against the Lakers, these were when Jaylen Brown was out. You were getting 34 minutes from Schroeder, 36 DK points, 36 minutes, 43 DK points. No Jaylen Brown, that's going to open up more usage, more opportunity for guys like Schroeder, Tatum, Smart. These guys are going to have the ball in their hands more. They're going to be able to take more shots. The matchup on the road against the Jazz, obviously not good, but 6K for Schroeder. I think he's a pretty solid mid-range play here with Jaylen Brown out. With him going back in the starting lineup, probably playing a few more minutes, should be more productive as well. He's for sure my favorite play from Boston. And then I think Tatum's a pretty solid play as well. Horford's viable, Smart is okay at 6,100, but that's probably it from Boston, in my opinion. I think that's everything that stands out here. So on the Utah side, you guys know I hate playing these Utah guys. When they're fully healthy, this is a team that I just, for the most part, I will completely avoid. Where they're priced at, there's no standout plays from the Jazz, especially in a matchup against the Celtics. This should be another pretty good game, but I don't think, in terms of fantasy appeal, it's not a game you expect to be super high scoring, so I wouldn't really be loading up on this game. But if you're playing a ton of lineups, if you're max entering, obviously Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, they're probably going to be in your player pool. But if you're playing one lineup or even hand building a few lineups, I doubt I really play any of these Jazz guys if I'm just playing a few lineups today. Just because where they're all priced at, like none of them stand out as good plays. Mitchell and Gobert are for sure the best options from Utah, but even them I don't really love. So I think we can move on to the next game, Phoenix and Golden State. So this should be a great game. We just saw these teams play. I think it was back on Tuesday. It was a really close game down to the wire. Wasn't as high scoring as expected. Both these teams do play at a really fast pace. So far this year, Phoenix, they are 4th in pace, and the Warriors are 6th. So, even though there was only 200 points scored in this game on Tuesday, I think we should see a pretty high scoring game here. Chris Paul, I think, is a really good play at 8,400. With Devin Booker out, once again, I think Chris Paul is just going to get a ton of opportunity. Going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He didn't have that great of a game Thursday against the Pistons. Only had, let's see, he played 33 minutes, only had 12 points, 12 assists. Wasn't great, but I think in a game like this against the Warriors, a big time game, I think the Suns have they're on an 18-game win streak right now. They want to keep winning games, they're trying to make history and go on this crazy win streak. They're going to try and win this game as much as possible. We saw last time these teams played on Tuesday, after Devin Booker got injured, they just played Chris Paul a ton. He played 39 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised even on a back-to-back to see Chris Paul play 36, 38 minutes here, because I think they really want to win this game. They want to keep this winning streak going. Obviously, this is a really tough opponent. This is a game with a lot of implications in terms of seeding. These are two of the top teams in the league in terms of standings right now. I think the Suns are 17-3 and 18-3 something, and the Warriors have a similar record as well. So I do expect a lot of minutes for Chris Paul, and I think without Devin Booker, he should be way more productive. I like him a lot at 8,400, even though he didn't do well Thursday against the Pistons. I'm fine going right back to Chris Paul. I think DeAndre Ayton as well is definitely in play now. This is a tougher matchup for Ayton. So far this year, the Suns or the Warriors have been really good defending centers. They've been really good limiting fantasy points to opposing centers. I'm pretty sure they've actually allowed the least amount of fantasy points to centers this season. But that didn't stop Ayton on Tuesday. I mean, he put up 47 DK points in 34 minutes. He should be a little bit more productive without Devin Booker, maybe get a little bit more opportunity to score around the rim and stuff. You should see a lot of lobs from him, from Chris Paul to Ayton, those two connecting a lot. So I think Ayton's definitely in play once again. I like him quite a bit. Mikal Bridges, though, at his price tag, I'm not a big fan of at 6,100. I think Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson are solid values. Cam Johnson specifically, I do like a decent amount for value. We saw him play 29 minutes against the Warriors. He played a lot after Booker got injured. And then on Thursday against the Pistons, I thought Cam Johnson would start, but he came off the bench. Still played 27 minutes, though, and was pretty productive. Had 19 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, over 30 DraftKings points, over 30 DraftKings points for Cam Johnson on Thursday. I think Cam Johnson probably plays around 30 minutes off the bench, 4,200. Yeah, I definitely like Cam Johnson as a value play if you want to go there. And then we probably get some more minutes for Cameron Payne off the bench. He was really productive. Only played 21 minutes, but was really, really productive. Had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists. 21 minutes is not great to see. I would want more minutes from Cam Payne. But so far this year, when Cameron Payne has gotten minutes on the floor, he's been really productive. I worry about him not seeing a true minute ceiling. You kind of have to question how many minutes do they want to play him alongside Chris Paul. So far this year, they haven't really, even with Booker out, I don't think they're going to want to play Paul and Payne alongside each other much at all. But I still think Cam Payne does play around 20 minutes. Probably more of a late slate play than a main slate play, but if you are playing the late slate, I think Cameron Payne would definitely be in consideration for me. Then I do want to mention Landry Shamet. Now his price came up to 4K, but he did start in place of Devin Booker on Thursday. Played 31 minutes. Wasn't great. Had 20 DK points. Landry Shamet, really scoring dependent player. Doesn't do much except shoot. But without Devin Booker, you're taking a lot of shots away. You're taking a lot of usage away. It's going to allow for some of these guys to get some shots up. In what should be a really fast-paced game, I think Shamet wouldn't be surprising to see him take 10, 12, 13 shots here. He's going to take some threes as well. At 4K, he's playable. Just know that at this salary, he's not like a standout value play. I think that's it for Phoenix, though. Now on Golden State, I really don't like anything on the Warriors. Steph Curry at 11,900 is just more of a tournament play today. He really, really struggled last time these teams played on Tuesday. He had by far his worst game of the season. 23 DK points, shot 19% from the field, 21% from 3. They're going back home today. That game was on the road in Phoenix. Now they're going they're playing at home today. Maybe playing at home, Curry plays better. But I think this is a tough matchup for him. Phoenix is just a really good defensive team. Mikal Bridges is a really good on-ball defender. I think he's going to give Curry a lot of struggles once again. He's going to struggle a lot. Look, Curry has massive upside. Curry can go out there and break a slate any night, but this is a tough spot for him. I don't love him on the slate. I think he will be really low owned though. He's really expensive. I don't think anyone's going to play him at this price point. So anytime you can get Steph Curry this low owned in tournaments, I mean, yeah, go for it. But to say Curry is a standout play today, I wouldn't say that. We did see, with Curry struggling a lot last game, that did allow for Jordan Poole to do well. We saw Jordan Poole play really well, shot 9 for 15. 6 for 12 from 3, had 45 DK points. If the Suns defense is going to really try and focus in on Curry and slowing him down, that could allow for Jordan Poole to continue to get a lot of opportunity. I think if Curry does struggle a lot like he did last game, it probably means that Jordan Poole is doing really well. So if you want to play that narrative, just hope that same thing happens Tuesday to today, that they just really focus in on Curry. Curry doesn't shoot the ball that well, and then maybe Jordan Poole does better. You could play Jordan Poole, but really, to be honest with you, there are no standout plays from Golden State, in my opinion. Even though this should be a great game and a pretty fast-paced game, I don't see too much I love from the Warriors today. So I think we can go ahead and move on to the last game of the night, the Clippers and the Lakers. So looking at the Clippers today, Paul George rested last game, but going to be back today. I think Paul George at 10,300 is a pretty good pay-up option here. This matchup against the Lakers, I do like quite a bit. So far this year, the Lakers have been a really fast-paced team. This is another game that should be played at a pretty fast pace. The Lakers, they're playing at the third fastest pace in the league, while the Clippers are 11th in pace. So both these teams are in the top half of the league in pace so far this year. We know the upside that Paul George has. We know that he's going to play at massive minutes if the game's close. I think he's a pretty good pay-up option at 10,300. You're not having to pay that really hefty price tag for him. Like Luka is almost 12K. Curry's almost 12K. Joel Embiid's like 10.5. KD and Harden are both over 11K. You're not having to pay 11K for PG. He's only 10.3. So I think PG definitely looks like a good pay-up option today. The rest of the Clippers, I'm not that high on. Reggie Jackson's price went up a little bit since Paul George was out last game. Now that Reggie Jackson's 6,600, I doubt I go there. Same with Eric Bledsoe. Same with the rest of these guys. Against a Lakers team that does play relatively big, maybe Zubac has to play like 25, 30 minutes here. It's a revenge game for him. I think Zubac's fine, but don't love him. I think Paul George is by far the best play from the Clippers today. The rest of these guys are just kind of, they're okay options. No other standout plays, though. On the Lakers side, the Lakers are a team, kind of similar to some of these teams we talked about. They're just like a team that's really hard to load up on Lakers right now when they're fully healthy. So LeBron, we got word that LeBron was he was going to be put in health and safety protocols, and then he cleared health and safety protocols literally like a day later. So LeBron's actually expected to play today. We thought he was going to be out, but he's going to play. Since LeBron's going to play, obviously that's going to take away from Westbrook. That's going to take away from Anthony Davis. Where these guys are priced at, it's really tough to consider any of these Lakers guys as great plays. That doesn't mean they can't have good games, but it's just really very similar to the Brooklyn situation with KD and Harden. It's just really tough to predict when you're going to get a 60-point game from LeBron or a 55, 60-point game from AD. They can obviously do it. It's just not something I'm going to bank on, I don't think. If I had to play any of the big three from the Lakers, I think LeBron would be my favorite just because he's the cheaper. And, so far this year when all three have been healthy and when they've all played together, LeBron has kind of been the most consistent and he's shown the most upside. So I think LeBron's fine. Anthony Davis is questionable. I assume he will play. Anthony Davis, I think this season, like every day he's been questionable for the most part he's played. So I expect AD to be out there. But obviously, if AD were to somehow be out, then yeah, LeBron would be a great play. Russell Westbrook would look a little bit better. And then you get, some value with like Carmelo, Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan. Like those guys will become viable if AD's out, but I expect AD to play. So honestly, I think that's it for the Lakers, guys. I think that's it for this non-game Friday night slate. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. As always, I do appreciate you watching. Before we get out of here, I do want to let you guys know that I will be live streaming an hour before lock. I always forget to say this, but I do stream Monday through Friday an hour before lock. So at 6 Eastern, I'll be live on my YouTube channel, breaking down the slate once again with you guys, answering any questions you have. It's more of a Q&A stream, so you come in, answer, ask questions, I'll answer them for you, whatever it may be, lineup specific questions, 1v1s, 2v2s. Definitely tune into the stream an hour before lock on my YouTube channel Friday night. And then, as always, guys, appreciate you watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer. Take a look at their board for Friday night's NBA slate. See some of the projections I have posted. If you have a strong lean one way or the other, you take the over or the under on the player's projection. You make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. Check them out. Sign up. Use code NOAH. They will match your first deposit up to $100. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one.